Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Adam Eisen Show. We're on to episode 24 this week with the Final Four rapidly approaching the night. A historic matchup is taking place for the first time in NCAA tournament history. In what could be his final game, Coach K and the Blue Devils will be going up against their rivals from North Carolina, the UNC Tar Heels, tonight at 8:50. A couple hours before that, on the other side of the bracket, two teams who always seem to be making a run in March in Villanova and Kansas are going to be going up against each other. Two historic programs. I can't wait to jump into all that today, but first, we're going to check out some of the massive news that broke out of the NFL in this past week. Starting it off, a rule change that a lot of you guys, and including myself, I think's long overdue, especially with where the league is currently going. I've talked about this numerous times for the last couple months. I almost bring it up once per show. The league is changing. We're in a transition year. We're in a changing period for the league. And a new era is coming that bases itself around offense. It started when Sean McVay began with the Rams, and they brought back the greatest show on turf, all that. Started with that, and the league is still going through a change. The saying for 100 years has been, defense wins championships. That's part of the reason why the overtime rule for the playoffs stood for so long, because your defense is supposed to step up and defense wins championships. That has been the saying, and the NFL is a very historic and prestigious league. It's very hard for them to go and want to, for one, and then actually get something like this changed. But the league is changing, and this is another example of it. Players, and especially QBs, are becoming more talented than ever and more flashy than ever. Look at the combine from just a couple weeks ago. We watched a defensive lineman that was over 300 pounds run a 4.79. That's like a refrigerator rolling down the hill at you. And then you go and you take a look at the AFC quarterbacks. I named a list for you guys the other day and just named 5 or 6. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, now Russell Wilson. Derek Carr is a great talent. There's plenty of other guys. And you can't have all this talent in the AFC with it ending with only one quarterback getting the ball in overtime. I've also said this before. The NFL is going to do whatever it takes to make money, and it's a business-first league. All this will do is help ratings. All it will do is help the fans, and it makes the fans feel like they're actually getting listened to, in my opinion, which is something great. And unless you're a Bills fan, I know some people are frustrated with this rule change because of recency bias. They've had this happen to their team, and if it's going to happen to them, it can happen to anybody. It should stay that way. My favorite team has also been screwed. The Packers twice. Once against the Seahawks in the NFC Championship in 2014, and once against the Cardinals in 2015 in the divisional round. Both times the Seahawks and the Cardinals got the ball first in overtime, and Aaron Rodgers never even got the chance to touch the ball. Both games, Rodgers was Superman, but he never got to do anything with it. And all that does is help ratings. All that does is help drive story. And I think this is a rule that was long overdue a change. With the changing league, with it switching to more offensive minds, I talked to you guys about more offensive coaches are being hired than ever. There's a fraction of the league that are defensive coaches left. The old saying, defense wins championships, this rule was kind of tagged along in there, because it used to be defenses would step up and make a stop, but now over 75% of the time there is nothing you can do when you get to that overtime when you have Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen battling it out. Both defenses are gassed. They don't have much in the tank left, and they've already done 12 to 15 possessions between both teams. It's just too much. The rule change was long overdue. Bruce Arians, you guys heard, he retired from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this past week. He is transitioning into a more front office type role. And Todd Bowles, the defensive coordinator last year and the year before, who made a great impression and is really a stud, is taking over at head coach. Bruce Arians said in his press conference that a succession plan has always been a big thing for him, and he'll be 70 in October, so I can't say that this has not been the writing on the wall, and this has been coming, is what I'm saying. But what I also want to say is people should not ignore the turbulence Tom Brady and Bruce Arians had in their relationship. Now, with a defensive-minded head coach, Brady can handle the offense himself like he wanted to do numerous times last year, and reports came out to back me up on that. First, there were the reports that Brady and Tampa's offensive coordinator would make a game plan while Bruce Arians was rehabbing from his Achilles injury. They would be making a game plan, and Arians would come in with a red plan after showing up late in the morning and mark through it with a red pen. Now, the second thing is, it's very convenient, the timing of all this, right? Brady even admitted he found out about Arians a day after he returned from football. And there are some conversations that we will never hear about. And like I've said, information only gets out if someone wants it out. No one wants this stuff out. I hate to be that guy, but I really do believe Brady got Arians out the door. Arians was an older guy. He would cuss players out a lot, and he admitted that. And what did Brady leave New England due to? What he felt was improper treatment by Bill Belichick, and what he thought was improper treatment to his guys, like his trainer. And maybe he felt he was getting improper treatment from Bruce Arians. Maybe Brady thought that he deserved more say in the offense, more say in what they're supposed to do. And honestly, that's what I think happened. Arians is older. We see younger head coaches on the rise. And honestly, Brady himself, he's like a young head coach. Brady and the offensive coordinators can handle the offense just fine. And Todd Bowles can stack that defense and make it ridiculous. Now, there's been reports coming out. I've had people ask me, what about Brady to Miami? What's happening there? And everything I just said, I think backs up that it's not happening. Because Brady made Bruce Arians get out of town. Brady wouldn't have done all this and laid out this plan. Like I've said to you before, Brady is the highest IQ, most planned out player in NFL history. There's a plan behind anything he does. He is not just willy-nilly making a decision. Tom Brady is staying with Tampa Bay. And the only reason these reports are coming out of Miami is because unlike any other city in the whole league, they have a mass amount of NFL reporters with a team that has not made any headlines in a long time. Miami, they're constantly trying to stew up stuff. They're constantly trying to brew something up, get headlines turning, because no media is bad media. You guys have all heard that. Miami, it's just the way it is down there. If you've ever been to Miami, you know what I'm talking about. They're just trying to stir up news, and they're doing anything they can. Like I said, Brady forced this guy out because he was too much like Belichick and a micromanager that thought it was his way or the highway. And Brady is not going to leave the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after just forcing Bruce Arians out. The next topic I want to get onto today is Deshaun Watson's contract. I know I've talked about the Browns a couple weeks in a row now, but you guys seem to be liking it. And there was big headlines coming out this week around Deshaun Watson's contract, so I want to dive into it, and Baker Mayfield. I think the Browns sent an obvious message with the signing of this contract. There have been private investigators in Houston since before this began from probably 8 teams around the league, and I know for a fact the Browns have had numerous private investigators in Houston since before this started, since when all this started, to try and figure out what Deshaun Watson is going to be penalized with before they went and gave up all these picks, all this money for him. Now, from those private investigations, I think they're finding out that Deshaun Watson is probably not going to play the first 8 games. Could play less than that. But Deshaun will be out the first 6 to 8 games, and his contract that he just signed says that. This year, they're only, including his signing bonus, they're only going to have to pay him roughly $9 million. Then the 4 years following that, it's going to be $46 each year, fully guaranteed. The Browns have also said they are in quote-unquote no rush to trade Baker Mayfield. The Browns have seen the writing on the wall here, and they're recognizing that they got Deshaun Watson, they have the long term there, but they have to figure out something for 8 weeks, maybe 12, maybe the whole year. And the reason I'm so confident that he's going to be suspended is because if you go look at like Big Ben's allegations, he was suspended for, I think it was 6 games. And Deshaun's got 22 against him. Luckily, they're all just civil charges. So he's not going to be put on the commissioner's list, commissioner's exempt list. We know that. But the Browns right now are covering their ass. And I think the contract tells you that. Right now, Baker, Jacoby Brissett, and Deshaun Watson are now all there. So coming into training camp, there's going to be such an interesting duel, especially because Baker Mayfield, if you guys remember, asked for a trade and could be playing some very valuable football for the Browns come September and October. Half of their season could be gone. If Baker Mayfield's able to get them 4 to 6 wins, he could get traded right before the trade deadline, go to a team that needs him, and make a push. But at the moment, I don't think the Browns are going to let him out of this deal. And it's just, I think it's a bad look on the Browns. I think it's the Browns doing another very big Brown thing to do, which is screwing with a player. Baker wants out. He's trying to go a separate way. He said his goodbye. He said he gave you all he could. Let it go. You have Jacoby Brissett. You have Deshaun Watson. 2 guys who could both be starters. Let it go. It's rumored they want a 2nd-round pick and a team to pay for Baker Mayfield's full salary. And we talked about it last week. A message has been sent around the league by the signings of Mitchell Trubisky. And the only thing left to happen is for Jimmy G to be signed, and then Baker's the last one left, even though he is more talented than many of these other guys, cheaper, and does not get hurt nearly as much. It's saying something about Baker's personality, and it's not a good look. Baker has put himself in this situation. The Browns are only piling it on to make it worse, and I'm saying this right now. The Browns, they could have the top 3 rush game again. They could have top 3 defense again. Browns will finish either last in their division or 3rd. And I'm betting on last right now. Because the Browns, I thought they were developing standards. I thought that Cleveland was trying to put in a set of standards that they have only had when LeBron James has been in town. Instead, Andrew Berry and the Browns organization botched it again, and it's sad to see. It really is, because you don't want to see an NFL team just botch things so bad. But the Browns are trying to get better. They're trying to they're trying to put in a set of standards. But each time they make a move and they move something on that chessboard, it is literally somehow like it looks to be a good move. You look to be confident with it, but it comes back and it's a terrible move for Cleveland. Now, going on to my next topic today, right before we get into March Madness and the Final Four, I want to give you guys my yay or nay for this week. We're getting back to this game after here or there last week. And this week I'm debating, are the Chiefs still the best team in the AFC West? I want to start with this. I think the Chiefs have the worst receiving corps in the entire division. And it's, in my opinion, it's not just that the Chiefs aren't the best anymore. It's that I don't know who is. Now, I said something, I brought up the receivers. They don't have great receivers at the moment. And they have three guys, after trading away Tyreek Hill, they have three guys, and adding Juju Smith and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. They have three guys that total a little over 1,000 yards total last year. All three combined. Compared to the Raiders, who have Renfro, Adams, and Edwards, who had over 2,300 combined yards last year and over 20-something touchdowns. The receiving corps is a big issue for me. And people think Kelsey will help with that. But what has the magical trick been for the Chiefs for all these years? It's that you can double team Tyreek or Kelsey, but you can't cover them both all the time. And that's when the Chiefs will make you pay for with the big over-the-top, over-the-middle play for 30, 50, 70 yards touchdown. Patrick Mahomes has the talent like Brady and Rodgers does. He will still find the receivers. He will still make these guys look like Pro Bowl players. And he will still throw for over 4,000 yards, 35 touchdowns, and be in the MVP conversation. Great QBs elevate the guys around them. And Mahomes will do that. The thing is that is different about Brady, Rodgers, and Mahomes are the divisions that they have each gotten to play in. In 2015, Rodgers had no one to throw to. And going into December and going into January, his number one receiver was Jeff Janis. And why do you guys think they were able to make the playoffs, almost go to the NFC Championship game? Like I mentioned earlier, they lost to the Cardinals in overtime. Why do you guys think they were able to do that? Because of the weak NFC North. The Patriots, what did they have for 17 years? The weakest division in football. It was a complete rollover every single year. Now the Bills, they've gotten themselves up, but Tom Brady's gone from there now, and he's in, guess what? Another bad division. But late in the season for the Chiefs, they will be playing the best teams in the league for likely the division title on the line. It's hard for me to pinpoint who is the best in this division, like I said. But going back to Patrick Mahomes, what do we know about him? And brought up his draft report a couple times. We know, and his draft report said it, and we've seen it over the last few years, he does not have a consistent throwing motion. He goes through 4 to 6 game slumps each year, and it's just what he does, everyone. And we have seen it multiple times now, so you can't question me on it. Mahomes goes through slumps. It's okay. Every quarterback has a little thing. Everybody does. Rodgers I think he throws away the ball too much. And then he worries about his interceptions too much. Mahomes he goes through these slumps. And with an even less talented receiving corps now, and the jaw-dropping talent like on the Raiders and their receiving, Kansas City is not going to win the division this year. I'm not saying they're not going to make the playoffs because this division is good enough to have all 4 of their teams make the playoffs. But for them to go into this season before the schedule even comes out and have 6 guaranteed dogfights throughout the year in their own division, and they barely have 1,000 yards receiving combined, I don't think they have the talent there. Like, they're going to make the playoffs, and I can't pinpoint who's going to win this division. I don't think Denver's going to win the division. I'll say that. And Derek Carr, he questions me, but I also have trouble leaving it up to Justin Herbert and the Chargers, who manage to let it down every season. The AFC West will be wild next year. And all 6 of those dogfights, like I said, they will be dogfights. Kansas City is going to be put through hell. And Kansas City will not win this division next year. The king has been knocked from its throne. Now, moving on. Told you guys we were going to get to it today. Final Four is happening tonight. I'm so excited. I've said it multiple times. I'm a big Duke fan. And this is the first time Duke is meeting UNC and the NCAA tournament. They're going into this game. Duke is favored by 4. And I'm going to tell you guys something that I don't think Coach K would even admit himself ever. Is that with this team especially, he never expected to be here. This is not one of Coach K's better teams. This is not one of those teams that if he lost like with Zion and RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish, the top 3 guys in the class, this isn't one of those that people were expecting them to win it all. They have struggled multiple times in Cameron, including in the final game to UNC, and then lost to Virginia Tech right afterwards in the ACC tournament. This felt like a great story with a bad ending to a bad movie. But it has completely flipped to a great movie. But it has completely flipped. Coach K, we've seen it again. He, along with a couple other guys, Bill Belichick, one of them, is one of the greatest adapters of all times. Throughout this season, he has listened to his players, and you can see that with exactly how they have switched between man and zone defense throughout this year. When his players come to him and say, we need to make a change, he listens. And the execution down the stretch from Duke in the last 3 games has been nothing short of phenomenal. They have staged comebacks in each of them, and even dating back to the round of 32 against Izzo and Michigan State. Duke displayed such toughness, and for a team that ranks first offensively out of all the teams left, you gotta feel good about them going into the night. The one spoiler can be UNC. Duke and UNC, they're the 2 worst defensive rating teams left, and UNC knows Duke. They've seen them twice already, and they want to spoil this trip for them. UNC's weakness is their depth of their talent, which was on full display during that 30-4 run by Baylor in the second half of the second half comeback and the second round of the tournament. This game, it's going to be a dogfight. I have to pick Duke. Without me being a Duke fan, I'd pick Duke because of UNC's lack of depth and lack of talent on the bench. But don't expect Duke to come in here. It is going to be a tight game. And what Coach K has done this season, win or lose, should not be discredited. This did not feel like a team the whole year who could make it to the Final Four, let alone could go win a championship. And now they have a chance to do it all. This is one of the best endings to one of the best coaching careers you could get. And I hope Coach K goes out and gets his 6th championship. It would be awesome to see. Going on to the other side of the bracket, Villanova versus Kansas. Kansas is favored by 4 heading in this matchup. And this is extremely interesting, and I've seen almost no one talking about it because the attention UNC and Duke is currently getting. It's all anyone can focus on, which I understand. Villanova, I originally picked to make it to Monday night. But after the injury to Justin Moore the other night, he ruptured his Achilles, if you didn't know. It leaves me very worried about the Wildcats. You cannot beat Kansas if you don't hit threes, which is exactly what happened in the 76-50 rout of Miami in the Elite Eight. The thing about Villanova is they are a great 3-point shooting team. They're the best free throw shooting team in the nation, which I said when all this started, that big games in March are won on free throws, and they are great at and Villanova is great at making adjustments, as seen against Houston. The Wildcats stepped up their defense, and they were able to hold Houston to 1 for 20 from three-pointer and made all 15 free throws to close out the win. There are many problems and concerns for this team, including Justin Moore, a guy who averaged 15 a game being out. But Villanova is a strong veteran team who makes their free throws and plays great defense, which matters 10 times more in March. And now we're in April now. Matters even more in April. This is when you need to make your free throws and lock down your defense. Kansas, I think, is ready for this tough test. They have battled Big 12 teams all year, which have been non-stop defensive battles, and they're prepared for a team like Nova because of it. And the lack of Justin Moore will be a big problem for the Wildcats and their depth of talent. I'm not saying it's going to be pretty, but Kansas will push and shove their way on into Monday night after a defensive war a couple hours before 8:50 when the Duke game starts. Now, I've given you guys my predictions. Kansas versus Duke is going to be Monday night. That is my championship, what I think is going to happen. And until right now, I have not thought about a pick, but I don't have to debate it much. I think Duke is going to win the championship this year, and Coach K is going to bring it home. He's going to go out on top, go out on retirement. At least I hope to see that's what happens. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another edition of The Adam Eisen Show. Don't forget to check out tonight's game, and you are not going to want to miss the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship this Monday. I'll be back a week from today to give you all my thoughts on that, the NFL, the Masters, and plenty more. Peace.